So if we see this oil, it's very dark in color, and we even see all of these little lines in there of stuff floating in there. All those are contaminations. So here's another unit that we pulled out from a different one, and here you can see it's all really milky and all dirty. There's a lot of moisture we pulled out of that one. And then finally we have this one as well. And we can see that it's very, it looks almost like tea. It's very dark in color. And I don't know if it's going to show up in the camera or not, but on the very bottom where it's been sitting, we actually see droplets of H2O, droplets of moisture. So the moisture over time separated out of the oil. So that moisture, had it been our vacuum pump, would sit at the bottom causing havoc. So what we're going to do next is let's pour this oil out so we can see what it looks like. Now as you can see, I can reuse this container. Now we can buy new ones of these or we can reuse them. So in this one, I'm going to reuse it. But if you see, it takes a little bit of time for that oil to drain out. It's dripping out. The oil is quite thick. Now I have to take and clean out all those contaminants inside of here. And we can see how dark that is inside of there. All that looked like it was clean and clear, all those are contaminants from one of the other vacuums that we pulled. So now you can see we got it clear. Now let's put new oil in. So here you can see the difference between our fresh vacuum pump oil, which I definitely recommend using a funnel because I made a huge mess with that. But here's how it should look. It's clean, it's crystal, it's clear. Here's dirty contaminated oil with moisture. Here's some with other types of contaminants in it. And here's moisture and even other types of contaminants. So this is how it should be looking, nice and clean and pure and clear. Keeping that vacuum pump oil changed is going to make the seal of our pump so we pull down our microns very fast, and also that we're taking care of our pump. Now let's take a look at changing the vacuum pump oil on the other pump. So here we can see how milky it is from where we pulled the vacuum. In the vacuum chamber, we got a lot of moisture boiling from liquid to vapor, and it filled up contaminated oil. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this little piece loose here, and we're going to get an Allen tool and unscrew that. Now what's cool about that is a lot of people say, well, I don't want to keep an Allen tool with me. Well, the solution is we have our little service tool that we have all the time anyways. So we can use this little service tool right here. And here we can drain out that yucky, nasty, moisture-laden oil. Now another cool thing about these pumps, if you read the installation instructions, they'll tell you that you can turn the pump on for a few seconds and it will help push some of that other oil out of there. So that's what we're going to do. So now we ran it just for a few seconds, and now we see there's a whole lot more oil coming back out of there. So that's another way that we get all that oil out, especially when we have heavy contamination like we do right here with this pump. Now that we know we got all the oil out, we take our little cap, we put this back in. We wipe down into that excess oil that's on there. So now we need to make sure that we refill it with oil. So what we're going to do is take this little cap off, and this cap is where we're going to be putting the oil in. And on this particular model, there's an O-ring under it. So make sure that we don't lose that O-ring. So I'm just going to take it off and put it back here with that cap. We want to inspect that to make sure it doesn't dry or crack or get dirty, anything like that, because we want to keep that oil clean. This cap actually doubles as an exhaust filter. So all of the exhaust we're pulling out from that unit is going to be going through the oil at the top, and this has a metal mesh inside that helps collecting that oil so it allows it to drip back in. This other model over here has a cap as well, and exhaust on it. They all have one somewhere, but that's what this is on this particular model. So now we're going to grab this high quality vacuum pump oil and we're going to fill it up, but this time we're going to use a funnel. So I'm going to add this little funnel to the top of it. It allows us to get it in there real easy. Sometimes in the field you use a piece of paper rolled up, whatever it takes, but we're going to add oil to this. So we're just going to start pouring that oil in, and it's important to make sure that we don't overfill it. In this case, you're going to see me accidentally overfilling this, which happens, but when you get used to doing it, it's very easy to get just the right amount in. So with this funnel, it sometimes makes it a little bit more complex because you don't see how fast it's going in, but we just simply add oil till we get to the fill line. So we'll just let that last little bit of oil drip or tap out of that funnel, make sure it's clean and dry. Then we just put the cap back on to make sure oil stays in really good shape, and we are now done. And if you get in a hurry like I did, you overfill it and then you got to drain some back out. And there we are. We're to the maximum set. That's right where we need to be. So here's another example for an oil change, and this particular model is really cool because it has this brass fitting at the bottom. We don't need any tools at all. We just simply loosen this brass fitting and allows the oil to start dropping out of the bottom. This is a JB brand. That's how they design their systems. So it's pretty cool how it works, and we're just allowed to drain it. Now, because it's at a live field setting, you don't always have everything you need like we do in the studio or in the lab. In this case, we don't have the cool oil change container. What we do have is a cup, and so we're going to drag the vacuum pump over to the edge someplace, whether it would be a condensing unit or here this table. We're pulling over to the edge and allowing that oil to drop into a container. Now we sped this up, but it's going to take time for that oil to drain out. So while it's draining, you can do other things. You can be working at invoices, cleaning up, taking other tools back to the truck, but the oil is going to drain much faster when it's warm. So after you get done pulling a vacuum, that's the ideal time to make sure you're changing that oil. Because it's warm, the moisture is already mixed with it, and you're getting all that contamination out of there very quickly. Now, if you wait till it's a cool morning, cool brisk morning, and you're trying to drain the oil is going to be very, very thick. And also you're leaving that moisture in, which can cause damage to that pump itself. So now that all the oil's out, we close the cap and are ready to refill it. Now we're going to need a funnel, so in this case we used a empty container of vacuum pump oil. We just simply cut the top, made a nice little funnel out of it, and now we're able to fill it back up. So we're going to use good quality vacuum pump oil, and we're just going to add oil until we're at that middle section where it says the full. So we put the cap back on, but if we see the sight glass is at the very top, and if there's any moisture contaminants, it's going to fall down to the bottom. Also, that sight glass doesn't give us a true indication of how clean that oil is. It's very thin, what you see right there, so you don't really get to see the contamination. But also, after I get done filling it, I like to make sure I get all the old oil cleaned up because the oil is kind of a magnet for dust and dirt. So by keeping it cleaned up, we keep it looking good, lasting a nice long time. I know that some people are going to get upset about running that vacuum pump without any oil in it, but here's some information from several different manufacturers that do that. First one being Navac, they say to run it for a short period of time. I have another one from Yellow Jacket, another one from JB, and all of them say inside to run that pump no more than 20 or 30 seconds to push any of that old contaminated oil out. So it is a legitimate thing, but again, make sure you always follow what your manufacturer says. RTFM, read that fabulous manual and see what's in there. You'd be surprised at how much information is in there. And again, whatever the manufacturer says always overrides what I say or really pretty much what anybody else says.